Okay, we are recording and we are live streaming. You may proceed.
So I have members present, Phil Barnes, David Reed, Gary Gray for public safety. Please say your last name when making motions and seconds.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Right now we got public works up. Can we get public safety?
Sorry, I brought the wrong one.
Bill Kennedy.
Good morning. I really have nothing that I need committee action on. You have my report. Just a couple things to highlight is we're moving forward with most of our time being tied up with COVID related stuff. We are moving forward with the Bradford School Tower site. Stephen has helped and developed the lease and we have that lease at the school right now for them to review, and hopefully we can get that pushed through their side fairly quickly so we can still meet some of the construction season to work on getting this tower in place. The only other thing in addition to that is the shared service agreement with Yates County is on, Stephen is reviewing that as we look to move forward with that. Beyond that, the rest of the stuff's on my report. One thing to note is that house numbering for new construction is still booming. I mean, typically this time of year it is, but I am getting almost calls daily for new house numbers for either new properties or conversions of properties from barns to businesses or rental properties. So that part of the infrastructure is still moving forward. Is there any questions?
No, I'm good.
Bill, just a quick question. What agency is it yours that would have all the statistics for locally as far as the equipment needed, such as protection devices, ventilators, all that kind of stuff, or does that fall under the health department or what? But what county agency has a true picture of what resources we have?
I'm not sure if a county agency really has it. I have what has come in as far as PPE, but as far as what resources are out there, a lot of them are under the hospital and Cougar Medical under the more the private side that we don't have a stockpile of those type of medical resources. We may have indications of what they tell us, but we don't track what equipment they have in place for like respirators and things like that.
So it's the private sector that controls that?
At this point, yes. I mean, we're working closely with them as far as needs. And like right now, the hospital needs to have 90 days supply of PPE going forward. And I'm in contact with them yesterday and this morning already about what they need for PPE to meet those requirements. But if it's specialized equipment and stuff, that's the private sector.
Okay, do you have any mandated reporting you have to do to the state as far as resources? I know back in my day at the sheriff's office, you had to account for all your types of guns and all this kind of stuff that you had available. Is there any sort of a database?
Actually, Minor can probably add to that description with the our access to the HERDS reporting, what the hospital reports. Beth, can you add to this?
Tim, you're correct. The hospital does do reporting through HERDS. I can go into HERDS and take a look to see what exactly they are reporting right now. And I can give you an update on that either via the Human Service Committee discussion, or I can send an email out to the committee members.
All right, and I will provide more information either on the Human Services or Management and Finance when we talk about the requirements for reopening. So a lot of it is going to be driven by daily reporting, and it's going to be a combination of both public and private reporting on a regional basis. So, but that's, I guess, a different committee.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Bill?
I just wanted to give Bill a pat on the back. Bill, I'm working with Bradford Fire Department with some water issues. And as we remember, it was just a short time ago that the Bradford Fire Department was in dire straits, pretty similar to Monterey. And they have a new president of the fire department, HOAD. HOAD is the president who I've been dealing with. And they've really come back. And they have a rainbow of apparatus. There aren't any two vehicles at the barn that are the same color. And they're very appreciative of you, Bill Kennedy, for working with the Bradford Fire Company and also of their relationship with the Tyrone Fire Department. So I just wanted to thank you for whatever you've done for getting Bradford back on course. They're a strong fire department now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for Bill? Anything from the district attorney? Mr. Rowe?
Nothing for me.
Sheriff?
Good morning. I have one resolution on the transfer money funds from seized assets for vehicle equipment for the vehicles we've already received and that we have coming yet. You know, that there's the ability to get that many vehicles this year. We thought we could transfer equipment. We couldn't, so we had to purchase new equipment for them. But it's just giving our people the ability to get out there in all-wheel drive vehicles and in any type of weather.
We have a motion.
Gray.
Reed.
Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Anything else, Sheriff?
No, just if anyone gets a chance, look out front of the public safety building on 10th Street. The law enforcement public safety memorial is in progress out there. The stones are set. They're setting the pavers this week, and it's coming together. It's going to be quite a memorial when it's finished. You know, you probably all know that we lost a canine recently to illness. And we're in the process of trying to find a replacement for her. And hopefully in the coming months, we'll have a new dog.
Sheriff, how many inmates do we have in jail today?
There is 9 in the jail. None boarded out.
Great. Can you send Tim the last 2 months jail population reports, please, so he can share with the rest of the legislature?
I can do that.
Thank you, sir. Anything else for the sheriff? Mr. Rosno?
Good morning. I have nothing exciting, just a couple motions, just standard business. The first one, renewing the contract with Audemon for our hosted services. There was an increase in that service, which is typical and planned for. The second motion is renewing the software maintenance services for the same company. This is our Caseload Explorer program for all our electronic case maintenance and notes and forms. There's no change in the second contract. That's actually, I think it went down by 2 pennies or something.
Going down.
At least it went
better than
down.
Going up.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a motion on these 2 resolutions.
Gray will make it.
David?
Second. Reed.
All in favor? Aye.
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 We have the last resolution. That's Van's situation that he wanted done, correct?
Correct. This is tabled for 2 months now. The county attorney did send an email to Van suggesting that he talk with the sheriff, the DA, public defender, probation regarding changes, and I've heard nothing, so I put it back on the agenda.
Is there anyone wants to address this at this time, or do we need to wait till Van?
Well, there has been changes made to the bail reform and discovery this year so far. So I'm not sure that it's as pertinent as it was at the time that the Van was looking to do this. I know there's more time under discovery, and the changes made for now. I'm not sure if they're totally sufficient or not. The DA'd probably have to chime in.
Okay, well, we'll just put it on hold for another month, so.
Okay.
Anything else for this committee? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the Public Safety Committee?
Gray will make it.
Second. Thank you, folks.
Reed, second.
Okay, we'll move right into Public Works.
Have a good day, everybody.
You too, Wes.
Kenny, are you on?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Buildings and grounds, I have no business to report. Business as usual. Everybody's working. Highway department, I have a couple resolution. Item A, authorized supplemental agreement with Barton Luigis for right-of-way incidentals and acquisitions for the County Route 6 over Van Loon Creek Bridge replacement.
I'll make
And
the
this
motion.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make it. Barnes.
Need a second?
Okay, I got it.
Second, Reed.
Yep,
Thank you.
thanks.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Thank you.
Okay, and secondly, B, a motion to accept reject material bids. This is for asphalt emulsions, and we've got our bids in, and we're going to accept all from Suit Coat and Vestal Asphalt.
I'll make the motion. Barnes.
Need a second?
Second, Reed.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I hear Van on now.
Yep, I'm here.
Hold on,
Sorry,
Van.
it's a big password to get in for me.
All right.
Resolution carried. And we don't have anything from Weights and Measures. Is there any questions or comments for Kenny?
Yeah, Kenny, this is Phil. What's the current status of County Route 6? Is that just finishing up what you started last year, or is this going to be a completed thing? I can't recall.
No, County Route 6, we're doing a full depth reclamation, recycle on from the state route in Mecklenburg to Van Loon Creek, actually right to the bridge. We're going to be doing that bridge, and then they'll have a chip seal overlay. So we do have the resurfacing left to do on that.
And that
Hopefully,
will be done. That'll be done this year.
correct. Still waiting for my CHIPS appropriations. They have not released them yet. They say they're coming any day, but I have yet to see them.
Okay. Well, it's money well spent, because there's a lot of road that you're taking care of, and I'm sure those people appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming on that road. It hasn't been touched in several years, so.
And of course, you did all the drainage and pipe work was completed last year, so you're ready to jump right in and chip.
Correct. We finished some of the pipes this year. We do have one more to do, which we're working with Jerry Vrigney in Soil and Water. Actually, we're meeting up there after this meeting, so.
Very good. Anything else? Call for motion to adjourn Public Works.
Just
One more thing, Jim.
Okay, David?
Okay.
Yes.
This, I was told by Stacy, that would come under buildings and grounds. This has to do with the school, the middle school, where we're leasing the auditorium for $20,000 a year. I've done some checking on this thing. I am not in favor of this project at all. And at the present time, with the way the economy is going to be going and what we are going to have to spend on that building, I would like to have a discussion on, I talked to the town attorney also, and I also talked to Judy Cherry on how much the DRI money was allotted for this. As of right now, there's $250,000 in the downtown revitalization program that was earmarked for this, but as of right now, zero has been spent on it. So there's no payback or anything that we'd have to do with the state to exit out of this program. The only thing is that you either have to be allocated to a different project or the money would go back to the state on that. There's many reasons. I don't like the fact that we're putting money into a building we don't own. That's number one. Number two, the building has yielded, to the best of my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, zero income from this building since we've leased it. We have an asbestos problem in there that if we disturb too much, we're going to end up getting stuck with a cleanup along with that. The air conditioning and heating project, which was going to be going out for bid, is estimated to cost us between $500,000 to $600,000. Tim said before that this total project over there was going to cost around $1 million. And I don't see a return on our money, number one. I don't see the facility even being able to be used in our present condition and for probably several years to come. I think it's a waste of money. Then after this is all over and done, who is going to be the person in charge of that facility and the promoter bringing in all this? This means that we have to hire somebody else also. I think that this is a money pit that at this present time that we cannot afford and can't afford even in the near or distant future. So that's what I have to say about it. Does anybody else share my same feelings and would go along with this?
Yeah, I have a comment if I may. You know, it started off with being quite a bit of interest and enthusiasm behind it, but really I've not seen or heard anything other than one meeting, I think, if I recall correctly, that we had there. And then after that, that's all I've seen or heard. I may have missed it. If there have been other events, I may have missed them, but I've not heard of anything. And if it's sitting there and still idle and with nothing in the pipeline coming down, you know, that's already scheduled, I would consider that as well.
Well, how much have dollars, not man hours, but how much money have we invested in this project to date? Tim, do you have a handle on that? How much have we already spent?
The only thing we've spent are the annual lease payments of $20,000 per year, which, as a reminder, we've offset with other lease opportunities. So from a financial standpoint, and I'll restate what I've said before, we have basically all of the advantages of owning a building without the obligations of doing that. So all maintenance and upkeep is the responsibility of the building owner. So I disagree with the owning versus leasing, that I think it's financially in our best interest. But I also will say, even though you haven't asked me, in response, that nothing has changed from the original plans or the discussions the legislature had when entering into this agreement. We have not encountered anything unexpected, and the building progress has not been unanticipated either. The building does get used by the community. There, in fact, the largest meetings held there were the Woodstock meetings, but we also have had events in there as well. and we've made it available. We are limited because when the weather is warm without HVAC, the building is not suitable for use. We've known that the building needs to be brought up to standards in order to make it a legitimate venue for the performing arts, of which we have a definite void, not only in the village of Watkins Glen, but in the county. So the investment, I think, is wise. There's no way we're going to be putting any more money into it this year, but I would strongly discourage walking away from this. And also, to refresh everyone's memory, we came into this building not is by design. The original intent was to have the village of Watkins Glen be the public partner in this. It wasn't because the village of Watkins Glen wanted to do that. It was because we leveraged a public-private partnership to get $1.2 million to renovate the building, which ultimately got repurposed for senior housing. So there's a bigger picture here. So all that being said, the decision is up to the legislature. I recognize that. But if we walk away from this, it will certainly be against my advice, on that. But it's your decision to do that. I won't belabor the point, but I can add more to the discussion in terms of even the financial impact. And we also indicated or anticipated this as an economic development project, and there probably should be discussion at CD&R regarding that as well. Because if the venue is utilized, it will bring more people into the downtown. I can tell you that in coming out of the COVID-19 and the restrictions that are going to be in place for the foreseeable future and longer, we're going to need to do all we can to stimulate and promote, back. So all that being said, I think my position on this.
Okay.
Hey, Tim, it's Van. You mentioned there were a couple of things. Where do they advertise any appearances or any programs that they have? Where is it advertised? Because I have missed them.
Well, the Woodstock meetings were well advertised and well attended, and I think the entire legislature was actually there.
Yeah, I was at all of those. Yes. Okay.
The local theater group uses it for rehearsals. There are groups that use it for meetings. We've used it for the book sale for the libraries. It gets used, but it's not generating revenue.
And there were a pair of musical events that were held as well.
There's been one concert there, a St. Patrick's Day concert, and that's where we learned that we couldn't use the building, and that was in March, and it was too hot then to use it. So the plan to upgrade the building is again has been in place for years now, and nothing has changed from the beginning. That's not to say the legislature can't change its mind, but we have not done anything that we didn't set out to do.
There was a St. Patrick's Day concert and the group that came from Florida.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That's true. You're another concert as well. Yes.
So
St. Patty's Day this year?
No. 2 years back.
2 years ago.
Okay.
That there was an Irish band.
Okay.
But yep. This may not be the right venue, but I am absolutely against. Number one, this is an actual executed lease that we have on this. If we cancel that, basically that means our word is worthless. So I see no way that actually is intelligent for the legislature to do. As far as putting additional money in it right now, the bottom line to me would come down to, when do we actually have to before, so that we don't lose the DRI money?
We have a couple of years before
Okay.
that's an issue, so there's
Okay.
no immediate rush. And at your last meeting, you agreed to move forward with bids to see what you'd be looking at. There's no way, no matter what the price is, that we're going to be spending any capital money this year.
Okay, very good. And probably if we can hold it for 2 years, it's probably worth it.
Right.
But
but I definitely I think that it would do us much more harm than good to actually do something that would, even if we could get away with it, would put us in a legally indefensible position and would definitely give us a black eye.
Yeah.
And
Is Stephen on board? I mean, can we get an opinion from Stephen about the legal issue as far as any cancellation of the lease? Is Stephen attending this meeting?
I'm here. I'd be happy to discuss it. It's not the type of thing we'd want to discuss in a public session, however.
I agree.
I would suggest that we have a special meeting regarding this. Has anybody got a business plan, Tim, as far as what the anticipation expenses and revenue anticipated could be?
But there are two possible scenarios. One would be opening it up to a promoter and basically doing a shared revenue similar to what we do with our other facilities, the park, the marina. Or if the other projects that were potentially going to happen, Clue Park venue being one of them, the Seneca Harbor Park glass barge being the other, it's conceivable that collectively we could hire an events manager and self-manage and promote. But the original plan was to bring it up to standards and have a promoter manage it and operate it with the county sharing in the revenue stream of that. We don't want to be in the concert business or in the arts business. So that's, and we would just follow models that other communities have used for that.
All right, I think we should have a special meeting and keep going with what we're doing right now and have a special meeting, discuss it at some point in time. There's probably going to be, Mark, there's probably going to be a lot of things we're going to have to change and cancel and do things, because until the governor opens things up, each day it just gets worse. So
Yeah, I
I think
agree
the
with
thing
you.
we're also missing here, we don't know the effects right now of this pause, but I can tell you, if you read some history, we went through an economic problem like this, and the government is going to be here with cultural things. Right now, we're not losing any money. We don't have a problem. We've got Mark did an excellent job of explaining about the lease. We're going to lose our credibility with everybody, and we'd lose our credibility with our state and federal government partners. We aren't going to spend any money in the next 2 years, I can tell you, because we don't have any. So my suggestion is we let this thing ride for a while. We can have a special meeting. Everybody can get their things out on the table, but this could be picked up just as easily by a federal program, and we'll wind up with a cultural center in Watkins Glen that we have no money in.
I see, there's no immediacy, I think, to take action today, but, I agree with you, Phil. Particularly when this is all over, when a little different time, do weigh the pros and cons of the whole thing. But I mean, I just, the absence of any activity surrounding that building, just, I've noticed, okay?
Tim, this is Michael. Could you comment about the asbestos problem? Or is that the owner's responsibility?
It would be the owner's responsibility. There's likelihood that there's asbestos given the age of the building, and it will be impacted with the HVAC project, and that's been built into the estimates of that. That's what's driven up some of the cost higher than what we anticipated. But that's one of the benefits of not owning the building, not our problem.
And the DRI money, that's slated for the HVAC?
It's slated for the development of the building, where there will be this happens to be the first expense we're incurring. They would actually prefer it not to be for HVAC. They want it to be for more flashier stuff or visible things. But they accept that this is what we need to do in order to get the building open. So that is, and we'll continue to seek funding for that as well. Again, given the void that exists, we can make a strong argument that there, outside funding, whether it be through the arts, whether it be through historic preservation or the CFA, there's a whole host of levers that can be utilized to get additional funding. But that's, as I said, nothing has changed from my perspective.
Well, at this point, having heard the two sides of the argument, I would favor staying in the lease, and as Carl said, until we really know what the full effect of the situation is going to be. But it seems like we may want a large event space coming out of this, that might be useful in that sense, along with the economic development potential.
Yeah, we got to get rid of this story that this is costing us a lot of money. It's not. And we're in a good position here. Let's take advantage of it. And we're not going to spend money out of our taxpayers' money on this building in the next couple of years, period.
Well, I was supportive of this project early on, and I've expressed my support for it, but I have to admit that I've been troubled by this and maybe other projects, not that I can identify at this time, but the risk of this, it's my conservative nature coming out, and the risk of this concerns me greatly. I don't know how well the Hangar Theater is doing in Ithaca, or the State Theater, Clemens Center. I think they're all probably struggling now. And yes, doom and gloom will go away eventually, and the cloud will go away from over our heads with the economy. But I have to state that I do have concerns about moving ahead with it. I'm not sure what the protocol would be. We're talking about having a special meeting. If it were a special meeting, because it's a somewhat of a real estate matter with the lease, I don't know if would it be an executive session meeting, or would it be during a regular meeting? Stephen, what would the nature of the meeting be?
Well, Jim, it sounds like you'd like to meet in closed session for the purposes of asking questions and obtaining legal advice, which is one of the grounds to be able to have executive session because you're dealing with a matter confidential by law, namely attorney-client privilege. So it sounds like that would be the guidance you'd want to seek. I would suggest too that, before you schedule the meeting, my office be given some time to give the lease a good going over, do some research, and write up all the options. The option was under the lease, the landlord was responsible for HVAC repairs unless the county installed them. So some of these costs we've been talking about, we'd want to be looking at the options there.
All right, well, Mr. Barnes suggested a special meeting. I support that. I think we should discuss it further. Several of you have expressed your opinions. Some have not. So I think we should have a special meeting, whether it's executive session or not, needs to be determined.
I would question what, and I do think executive session is the correct format. I just wonder, could we do this maybe at legislative meeting after next month's LRRC? Go into a legislative meeting, declare an executive session as part of that meeting, come out of the meeting and take whatever action would be appropriate at that point. But I don't think we actually need to call a special meeting. But
well, if we're not going to spend any money in the next 2 years, and the taxpayers can be assured that we're not investing any of their tax dollars in that building, I don't see a need for a meeting then, because it's basically to make sure we can answer and look the taxpayers in the face that we're not spending any taxpayers' money, especially if we're gonna have to raise taxes and shut down businesses and maybe have to lay off employees and cut government and cut things. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, that we're not spending any taxpayer money on that.
Just to be clear, though, we are spending $18,000 a year.
That's Tim's got that covered under another situation. That's a different pot of money, I believe, right, Tim?
Well, it's being offset by leases that we've entered into that, I'll use the word, that have been creative on our part. You know, so we certainly have, if I'm looking at the balance sheet, I've generated more than offset what we're spending on this. But I do want to point out that were it not for the COVID issue, the discussion, and this speaks to the public money aspect of this, it's never been the plan to not use any public money on this building. We're not able to now because of the financial situation we're in, but the expectation was that the Economic Development Reserve funds, which are earmarked specifically for purposes like that, would be used for our match and for potential future renovations that need to bring it up to scale. And that's been the case from day one as well. So I want to make sure that it's understood that again, you can change your position, but going into this, we never said we would not spend any public money. And I hope that's not being conveyed to the public, because that
Right. Well, we couldn't say that because the DRI itself absolutely required a match.
That's correct.
So I don't have a problem.
But when it comes time to,
Oh.
if the county were to hire an operator, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Tim, we could either lease it out to a promoter who would operate the facility. The other option would be, has come up in the past, that the county would hire a person to run the barge and the theater. So that would likely be public expenditure.
Well, certainly hopefully it wouldn't be, because the thought would be the revenue would cover any expenses with operating the building. And that's one of the benefits of us not owning it, because our overhead is virtually nothing on that. So when you compare us with other venues, we don't have the same balance sheet because we don't have the expenses and the fixed costs that they do. But where I see the use of public money is getting the building suitable for that purpose. Once it's open, no, it should not, in operation, it should not require county subsidy. But there's no way it can be done without using local money to get it to the standard that needs to be in. And again, because of the situation we're in now, it's not going to happen. It can't. But when we recover, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later, the discussion will need to be resumed. But I think realistically, we're 2 years away from that, in all honesty.
I would suggest that we just table it, operate the way we're operating right now. We aren't going to be spending money, and let's let it ride out, see what it looks like. We can bring it up 2 years from now, or if it starts to cost significantly to us, we can get it back and to the legislature.
I agree with you, Carl.
There'll be
This is Ken again.
There'll be a whole new board of legislators by then, so.
Given the way
Gentlemen,
things are going.
All right, I back
Gentlemen.
up. Let's handle it today.
Gentlemen, this is Ken again.
Is that
Yeah,
plan
this-
acceptable?
Anyone wants to
this-
speak?
Yeah, this is Ken again. Back in a prior Public Works meeting, we discussed, we're in final design of the HVAC design right now. We discussed putting it out to bid, see where they land. If we're not going to spend any money within 2 years, there's no sense of putting this out to bid. I don't have a problem going final design and stopping at that point, but there's no sense of putting this out to bid if we're not going to spend money on it in the next couple of years.
I would agree.
That's good, Ken. Thank you.
Ken,
Okay. Yes.
well, just one question for clarification, Ken. If we don't think we're going to go out and do
Yeah.
this for 2 years, does it make sense to even get a final design now? Because the final design itself could conceivably, there could be 2 years of better technology out there.
There could be, you're correct, but I mean, we're there. I mean, we're ready to go out to bid pretty much.
Well, let's just put a hold on it right where it is.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Thank you, guys.
Finish the design, get bid-ready documents, and we just won't go to bid.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So then the total amount, basically, yes, David Reed here. The total amount then that we are going to be putting in this building for the next 2 years is strictly the $20,000 per year that just to lease the building, and no other money's going into this building until a 2-year period is over. Is that correct?
That's correct. No other money will go in without legislative approval.
Okay.
Well, just to clarify, getting back to the design piece, we'd still have to pay for what we've done to date.
It's already been authorized.
Yeah, we have to pay Hunt.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Jim, do you have anything else?
No, I don't, Carl.
All right, let's move on. Who's next on the agenda?
Human Services.
Human Services, yep.
All right, Public Works is adjourned.
We'll call the Human Services Committee to order. Joanne? Do we have Joanne with us?
I can see her picture.
Joanne's muted.
I had to unmute myself, sorry. The first thing is a motion to renew the contract with the Schuyler County Attorney's Office for legal services for child support matters at a cost of $126,000, which is an increase of $21,000 from the 2019 contract.
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second,
That's Van.
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is a resolution calling on the state of New York to release the enhanced federal Medicaid matching funds to counties and New York City. This is a resolution that I think by and large every county in the state is passing. New York State has been holding our federal money that is due to come back to the counties. We have not gotten it since I think 16, 17 fiscal year.
I will move that.
Joanne, why have they been holding it?
Well, it has to do with the whole Medicaid piece that I talked about a few months ago.
Okay.
That they're running a $6 billion deficit. They're saying counties have a bigger share to pay because of the cap, but they have not released that. Plus now the federal government has come out with an increase in the FMAP, and we're waiting for that to be released back to us, even though the state has received it.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Second from Van. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, next.
This is to authorize the transfer of funds for detention. We had a youth that was a raise the age youth. As soon as they're coded that way, the cost of detention goes up considerably. It's about $1,200 a day for a youth that's a raise the age youth to be in detention. This is 100% reimbursable from the state. We just needed to adjust our detention juvenile delinquency account to take into the fact of this.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, on to the next.
The next is to accept the acceptance of the COVID-19 Unity Response Fund grant. This, I wrote a grant. Basically, since the pause went into effect, we've been providing through the Office for Aging meals to our homeless to try and keep them from having to go out in the community as much as possible. This provided them with a home delivered meal, which my staff is delivering, OFA staff is preparing, and we wrote it for 90 days of the pause, though I'm sure if it goes on longer and we still have money, we would be able to continue to provide the meals. It's amount of $11,520. This also takes into account, we are able to recoup from the state $36 or $35 a month per person for home delivered meals. So the cost is a little bit more than this, but we're using also some state funding in this.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
So I got a question. Who is the actual organization that is?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, actually, it's several organizations. It's the Corning Foundation put money in, the Triangle Fund put money in, the United Way of the Southern Tier put money in. This grant money is for Steuben's, Chemung, and Schuyler only. The Community Foundation of Elmira and Corning are actually the ones that are overseeing this grant and who actually provided the check for it.
Okay, excellent. No, that I have no compunction against this then at all. That's great.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right.
Basically, statistically wise, our food stamp SNAP numbers are increasing, which was expected, though with the federal government of the $600 for unemployment for people. Some people are not qualifying for SNAP because they're actually making more, depending on what their salary was, they could actually be making more than what they were when they were working. So our hotlines, which is to be expected, are down slightly in March or April. So we'll see how it comes out at this point.
Any questions for Joanne on the reports?
I'm sort of surprised that we haven't seen as much of a spike, but I think your April numbers may show some different.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is I think a lot of people are applying for unemployment, and if they qualify for that, they're not going to qualify for TA. So probably if there's a long-term unemployment, we're going to see more. And as the federal match goes away, then probably more people will also qualify for SNAP benefits. So we do see that as coming. So.
Okay, then you have a Youth Bureau resolution?
Yes, this is to appoint Ashley Carrick from Catholic Charities to the Youth Board for a 3-year term.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes too. All right. Anything else for Joanne? And we'll move on to Office for the Aging. Tammy?
Good morning. So my first resolution is to authorize a contract with Park Outdoor Advertising, and that's for digital display advertising. We are hoping to use this for volunteer recruitment, New York Connects, our caregiver program, the nutrition program, and health insurance counseling.
So do you specifically have an idea, Tammy, where that board would be?
It is the board that's located right across the road from Curly's. Coming into the
Lord.
Village of Watkins.
I am very, I think that if the county starts advertising on that, we're going to get pushback because there are very many people who are still very upset that that even sits there. Just throwing that out as something to be considered.
Well, I know it's controversial, but it's a great opportunity for us. I know a lot of people read that information, and we've heard a lot of feedback that people are seeing information there. So we're just trying to come up with different ways to get word out about our services.
Okay, I just the thing is, will we be making more enemies than friends? But if you think it's a good one, I'll go with it.
Well, perhaps we try it, and if we get a lot of pushback, then maybe we step back from that.
Mark,
Well,
there's going to be about 4 more going up, so it's the way of the future.
Oh, lovely. All I know is that I've heard a lot of people, and it's not even in my district, but I've gotten an earful of people saying the dang thing's an eyesore and it never should have been allowed. So,
See, I'm surprised. I find that the one right before it is more of an eyesore that's way up higher. And it strikes me that that electronic board is a very effective way of getting people's attention. You can, there's all different kinds of things that, like the Office for the Aging. I mean, I don't know if there's a special rate for, for nonprofits and that, but it seems that it's a good venue to advertise. It's much more effective than the one in front of the county building.
Can we try it for a couple of months instead of going all the way to 6,000?
So the contract itself, I mean, Stephen can jump in on this, but I understand that the contracts do need to be written for a year. So we would have to say that we're going in for that amount of time at that much, because this is a month by month. So we also can pull out. I mean, we also can give them a 30-day notice and say we're pulling out if we decide that it's not a good idea. So if we did it for a couple of months, we got a lot of pushback, then we could give them a 30-day notice and pull back that way.
Tammy, I'd have to have the contract in front of me to recall what the termination clause was on that.
I would be interested to hear what that termination clause is, though. So
Yeah.
I can pull it up and have that information before LRRC.
Okay.
There you go.
Do we want to act now? Well, Michael, is your committee, but
Well, we want to hear what the opt-out, how bad we're going to get beat up for that.
And it is subject to approval by the county attorney. So if it turns out that there's not an out, if what I'm hearing is then you don't want to enter into the contract.
right, that would be my feeling. I know that the old saying is it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission, but I do like the idea of if this thing gets a lot of blowback, having some way to get out.
Correct.
Stephen's already approved of it, but I will send it to him and both of us will try to have an answer before LRC.
Okay, so
Sending it to you now, Stephen.
Okay, checking the emails.
So you could move it forward and then pull it if necessary.
Okay, then I'll move it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Okay, so the next resolution is to authorize a 2-year contract with the Tyrone United Methodist Church. This is just the ongoing program that we've had there. We aren't meeting there right now because of the inability to meet in groups, but we had been waiting for quite some time on one of the insurance documents, and we did finally receive that. I'm sorry, the hope is with this, we're in our planning for moving forward with the congregate sites. One of the things we talked about, if we can't go back fully because we can't do social distancing effectively at a congregate site, that we might come up with a grab and go method that would be temporary until we can go back to the fully functioning congregate site.
Okay, so I move it.
I'll second.
Mark.
Second from Van, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, is there anything else for Tammy? We'll move on to public health. Deb?
Good morning.
Morning.
I do have 2 action items for discussion today. The first is to authorize the creation and filling of a full-time account clerk keyboard specialist. This is as a result of a resignation that we had earlier in the year, and I had received approval to fill the position. It was a Secretary 1 position, and we have not been successful in receiving interested applicants. And in speaking with HR, it seemed that in going over the job duties of this position, they could be fulfilled with the account clerk keyboard title, and we may be more successful in having individuals have interest and the ability to pass the civil service exam for this position. So we would not be filling with the Secretary 1 if we filled with the account clerk keyboard specialist. It's similar to my request in filling the nursing position, that we advertise for both and then fill with the most qualified candidate.
What are the budgetary implications of?
It is the account clerk keyboard specialist is a lower salary than the previous title of Secretary 1.
Okay, I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Van? All in favor?
Aye.
And my second resolution is to authorize our contract with the New York State Department of Health through Health Research Incorporated for additional COVID-19 funds. The grant year is March 5th of 2020, and it runs through March 15th of 2021. And these funds are specifically earmarked for use with COVID activities and expenses.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And then I would just report that
Yes.
as of the end of the day yesterday, we were still at 9 positive cases for our county. As of the end of the day yesterday, we had received 470 negative tests, but I know that we've received some additional negative tests this morning already. And we currently have 8 individuals that are under mandatory or precautionary quarantine.
How many is that, Deb? Can you give me a figure?
How many is the quarantine?
Yeah.
8.
8. Okay.
8. So those are individuals that either have been identified as a close contact, and so they need to be under a mandatory quarantine, or they could be someone who was symptomatic and we are waiting for their test results to be returned.
Okay.
And then each day I do receive a report for data regarding our regions, both the Say region, the Southern Tier region, and the Finger Lakes region. So for the Southern Tier, it looks like yesterday our number of new positive cases continued to drop and the number of new hospitalizations continued to drop for the southern tier. So that's the region that's been identified to work together on reopening. And then also we do get information on the number of tests for the southern tier. Unfortunately, I don't think we're reaching our target right now that we will need to have for reopening. And that I believe is 30 tests per 1,000 population per month. So I'm thinking that's probably somewhere around 1,000 a day for the southern tier. And we are typically not reaching that each day. So we'll work as a region to increase our testing capacity. Well, not the capacity, I think we have the capacity. We need to increase the number of folks who get tested. So we'll need to be encouraging our essential workers, even if they're asymptomatic, to consider testing.
So Deb, do you have access to a sufficient supply of testing material?
So the testing for Schuyler County is done through the Schuyler Hospital. And
Okay.
at this point, they are telling us that yes, they have sufficient supplies. They receive most of their supplies through Cayuga Health. And then also Bill has been providing supplies as they need them. But what they were communicating to us yesterday at the meeting about reopening is that they do have sufficient supplies. And I believe that they reported they could do 120 tests per day.
Okay.
And if they were able to do that for our county, we would absolutely meet our testing metric for reopening and staying open.
Okay,
It's a matter of getting the people to go and get tested.
Okay, just as an FYI, I've got access now to a second source, and actually it's the entire spectrum of the PPE. Okay.
Okay. And then as a follow-up to the question that was posed earlier this morning about reporting PPE on hand, the hospital is reporting every day a long list of what they have on hand, what their burn rate is every day, and what how many days supply they have. And also a requirement of the reopening is that they have a minimum of 90 days supply of PPE on hand.
Good. Okay.
I raised that question. Who has access to that report? Does the public have access to that information?
I don't believe so. I have access to the report through the secure health commerce system with the state health
It's not
department.
public information.
Okay, the other question is, okay, we can do tests. And the governor says you gotta have X number of tests done, and why aren't we getting the testing done? This is a holdup. We don't, you know, I'm an essential, I need to get tested. Where do I go?
Right now, it's Cayuga Medical.
Right, but how do we let the public know to do this? This is, you know, I got people here that are closing their doors now and can't pay their bills. And nobody's telling them where to go to get tested so that we can get this door open again.
So the two places to get tested are Schuyler Hospital or the Cayuga swabbing site. Both have a phone number that folks can call because you need to call to register in advance, or at the swabbing site in Ithaca, there is a website that you can go to register. We've been putting that out on our social media, and it's on our Facebook post every day with the number of where we post every day with, you know, how many positive cases we have, et cetera. The phone number for Schuyler Hospital is there to register, and the website for Cayuga Health System is there as well. I did speak with both Becky Gold from the hospital and a representative from the Chamber of Commerce about how we might work together to encourage employers to encourage their essential employees to take advantage of one of these two systems to get tested.
Okay, so if you got bed and breakfasts and vacation rentals that want to get open again, restaurants that want to get open again, then they need to be told they got to go get this done first.
Yeah.
Right? And then the
Yes.
numbers will increase. So we got to
Yes.
come up with a conduit to let these people know that are sitting back being clueless, just waiting for and blaming the governor that this is not happening. Well, now we're at fault too because we're not getting tested to get those numbers there. Am I correct?
Yes
Well-
and no. Actually, you're just a little bit ahead of the curve right now. The 8-county region is meeting. In fact, I have a meeting at 11:30 to put together the actual plan that will go to the state to allow us to start reopening on after April 15th or May 15th. And then, as you've probably seen, that would be a phased reopening. We met with the business community yesterday, and actually it was a very positive, productive meeting. And they're very anxious to have their frontline staff all tested, and that will be how we meet our requirement. Us meeting our 540 a month is not going to be hard. But it's not just us. It's the region as a whole that needs to maintain the numbers, both in terms of hospitalization rates, PPE stockpiles, the incidence of infection. So that is underway, and we will be submitting a plan, for the Southern Tier, probably this week, with the anticipation that we will be eligible to start the reopening process after the 16th. That's the first step. Then, testing is one aspect of it, but putting in guidance or even regulations for businesses that are allowed to open. And my recommendation in Skylar's case is that we make this a public health function, and we'll be taking a regional approach to being allowed to reopen. Then it will be up to each county to provide oversight and ensure compliance to make sure that we don't go backwards or that businesses are then forced to close if they're not complying. So we've started that process. It's underway both on the government side as well as starting to work with the businesses. And this is all transpired within the last not even 5 days. With the governor's announcement on Monday, that was the watershed moment when we finally were given some direction that there's going to be some local control over the reopening process. That immediately caused wheels to start turning. So I can appreciate the frustration, but we've had our hands tied up until now. We now have some direction, and there's a plan moving forward that or there will be anyway. So I don't know if that answers all the questions. But
One more question, please, and that is, how long a turnaround time after you have that test done do you get the results? I talked to a retired deputy who's up in age, and he had to self-quarantine himself because it took 2 weeks before he could get a response. Is that going to be the case? Is this going to continue to drag out the governor's blessing, or where do we stand on that?
Deb can answer that.
So initially there was quite a lag, and for some folks it was taking beyond a week to get the results back. What we are seeing now is that the results are typically coming back to us in 2 to 3 days. However, we did experience a bit of a lag, and we're not sure why. There were people who were tested last Thursday, and the batching done at Mayo Clinic wasn't done until yesterday. So we're just getting those results now today. So that's a little slower than what it has been. It's typically 2 to 3 days. There are some times that we get the results back even sooner than that.
So are they prepared for this influx of tests then?
Cayuga Health Center tells us they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Ours is minimal. Having to do 500 a month is not a problem. It works out to scheduling a 1.5 day session, per week. And we met with the hospital yesterday, and they're more than happy to assist. And my concern is that, while we can easily meet it, the rest of the region may not be able to. So I'll know more after I have a meeting today.
And the swabbing site in Ithaca, when they first set up, they were hoping to receive 500 people a day. And I haven't seen any day that they have achieved that. Most days they're getting just a little over 200 people go through a day.
Yeah,
So
we usually have-
they do have the capacity to test more people.
Deb, I have 125 employees and I need to get every one of them tested. Can I send you an email and you can put me in touch with the people that live like in Cuyahoga County and places like that where they can reach out so they can get tested?
Sure, yep, just send me an email. I'd be happy to help with that.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Deb, it's Van. I have a question. Has there been any information reported that you've heard of that this can be passed on through the mail system? The virus?
Everything that I have read that the CDC and the World Health Organization has put out has said that they do not see evidence that the virus can be transmitted through the mail delivery.
Okay.
So on packages or envelopes.
Okay, thanks. I've seen that. Thanks.
Okay, Mike, I got a question, Mark. Who is in charge of the messaging to get this information out to businesses and to get that? Because I was sort of juggling calls between the scoped business attraction team and the legislator meetings this morning. But Judy was saying something about asking all of us to just pass along to whoever we know in the business community that if you're an essential business and you need you're interested in getting tested, just go make an appointment with the hospital. And I'm just wondering, is that something that, because you said you thought that public health should be at the center of this, Tim?
No, not on that aspect. I think it'll be a combination of both the county, scoped, the chamber, getting the word out. Once we have a consistent and uniform message to spread, so Judy's giving you a heads up of what's coming, but we need to make sure that we're on the same page with the rest of the region moving forward. There initially was some confusion, thinking that the regional councils would be the deciding body. Well, the direction they've gotten, according to Judy, is that the regional councils are not involved until reopening occurs, and they're there for business support. The message we got on Monday was that the counties are going to be responsible for the regional reopening. So we're going to, as we always do, partner with the most logical groups to do that. But right now, we'd be sending an incomplete message. So this is moving very quickly. Again, we're talking about just everything that's happened since Monday. So by this time next week, I would say we'll be in good position to be ready to reopen on that. So
okay, last question then tied to this. If that's the case, is that the case with all of the regions? Because what's Bob Duffy's role? That I thought that Bob Duffy was in charge of this for Finger Lakes region through the regional council, or is he just a governor appointee to be county liaison?
To our governor appointees, and I think that, and maybe at the time that was the plan, and as we've seen throughout this whole thing, things change. Sometimes hourly, if not daily. So now, from my understanding, and Deb's been more involved on the Finger Lakes side. Bob Duffy's still involved, but he's now going to be working with the governments directly on the reopening, and then he'll support the business community through the regional council as they move forward. So I don't think we're going to see anybody else named other regions. We just now are realizing, or have been given the direction that, okay, there is going to be some local control. Up until now, we've just been doing whatever the executive orders mandated us to do. So I would, at least my personal position is we need to take as much liberty with interpreting this as we can to bring as much local control into play here. So, and that's why
Absolutely.
public health will be assuming a role that they haven't traditionally assumed because we don't have an environmental health department. My suggestion is going to be that through our executive order capabilities under Article 2B, that we designate the health department as the reviewing and agency for allowing businesses to reopen and not have to wait for the state to be involved in that. And then we'll have to deal with enforcement both on the public health and law enforcement side. But that's all in process as we speak.
Okay.
Regarding that, Mark, Judy was talking about a protocol for wineries that she submitted. Did she mention that to you?
No, that actually was not part of the conversation. I know that there is she mentioned that such was developed. She did not go into detail about any that, and it was more than just wineries. She did not go into any detail on the contents of that. And I would suggest that if you're interested in getting more information, to contact her directly.
Okay.
Actually, Lakewood is being used as a model for it's been submitted to the state too. So
right, Liz developed some protocol documents.
Sector will be doing the same.
Tim, you mentioned when we do open up some businesses and stuff, who's doing the oversight on this?
I'm hoping that it's us, that it's public health, that's as opposed to having to rely on Hornell to do that. It's been delegated clearly to the local governments, is they're responsible for enforcement. So we will be receiving applications, developing uniform standards, and authorizing reopening. Otherwise, things aren't going to open.
Okay.
Going back to the testing, then at this point, essential workers just call and identify themselves as an essential worker and they get an appointment?
That's correct. And the number for the hospital is 535-8602.
Okay.
So the list of essential workers that the state has now put out is extensive. There's a lot of folks that qualify for getting testing now, even without having any symptoms or any known exposure.
Great. Okay, is anything else for Deb?
Is it mandatory testing for law enforcement and fire? Actually, emergency responses?
It is not by the state health department. It is not a requirement. It is strongly encouraged that folks who are essential workers, and especially people like first responders, law enforcement, who have been having ongoing contact with the public because that's the nature of their work, I would encourage them to take this opportunity.
Okay.
Anything else for Deb? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
Do we have anything from community services?
I did not have any specific resolutions, but you are more than welcome to ask any questions.
Any questions for Sean?
Actually, Sean, can you speak to the clinic operation and the protocols you put in place and just kind of an overview of where you stand?
So we happen to have laptops with remote access to our electronic case record prepared ahead of all of this anyways. For different reasons, we were planning for offsite access. When this occurred, we were able to quickly put our staff into their home setting with the ability, with the
relaxation and waivers of our regulations for off-site services, we were able to quickly get our treatment set up remotely. And we have actually fine-tuned that over the last several weeks. And at this point, we are almost at the same rate of service as we were if the patient was coming in face-to-face. We don't know specifically what the billing is going to look like because some of the billing is a little less than typical, but for the most part, we are meeting and connecting remotely with our patients. We have a show rate that is very favorable. Actually, our show rate at the moment is better than previous when the services were actually on site, partly because there are no issues with transportation, which is one of the reasons sometimes patients can't come in. So overall, we have the majority of staff working. The majority of staff are remote. We do have some support staff on site to do things that cannot be done remotely. And we have minimal therapy, senior therapists on site every day for 4 hours to be able to do certain things that cannot be done off site. Overall, we have done an amazing job. Our staff have really stepped up, and because we are one of the revenue producing departments in the county, we've been able to continue that aspect of it. I do know that state aid is going to be cut. How much, I don't know. I have other plans in place for that. But at the moment, we've been doing a great job, and really we have not missed a beat in the transition from on-site to remote site services.
So what is the feedback you're getting from staff, Sean, in terms of how the patients are responding and how the staff is? Are people actually feeling like this is being effective, or have you gotten feedback?
So the majority of the treatment is very effective still. In fact, for some of our patients, somebody who has paranoid schizophrenia, we were concerned that they did not want to talk either over the phone or through a Zoom type setting. And in fact, that type of person has actually done extremely well in this setting, partly because that person doesn't always want to come to the clinic. This information has actually been shared with the Office of Mental Health field office as well as Albany, and it's not just our county, but the state as a whole is saying, look, you need to really look at some of these regulations and try to relax some of them, because this type of treatment is actually helpful for some patients. Now, we do have others that are saying, I want face-to-face, and actually they're telling whoever will listen to them that they're going to start coming in, and we're saying, no, you can't do that. There's a process before you can start to walk back in. So the majority of people are actually doing very well in this setting, but there is a contingent of people that are ready to start the traditional type services. We have a few people that are refusing to do either phone or any other type of service without the face-to-face. So we're trying to work with them to make sure that they're not exhibiting any increased symptoms. But overall, the feedback has been extremely positive.
Very good. So this may be something that we want to investigate after this is over as a mechanism for if it can work on. Right now, you're using the county's Zoom account for this, or do you have?
The majority are phone contacts. There are only a handful, even though the regulations have been waived, there are really only a handful of Zoom or Docs.me. They're programs that are really secure enough to be able to provide the face-to-face.
Right.
So right now it's minimal in regards to that. We are looking at options because especially with the kids or the adolescents, that face-to-face interaction really helps the understanding of when the child is trying to explain what's going on and we're asking certain questions, being able to see their reaction in their body and how they are doing overall helps with the treatment. But we are doing that minimal at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Others?
Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was just going to ask other questions.
I have a question for Tim and Mike.
Okay, go ahead there.
Yeah, is there, do we have, or does anyone in the county have underway some type of a tracking mechanism to get some type of an approximate what this whole effort will have cost us as a county when it quotes ends?
From the county, absolutely. We have a lot of metrics to measure by, and certainly, we're going to start realizing those soon as we start seeing sales tax and room tax reports. The other unknown is, federal assistance at this point. Scoped has been working closely with the business community to through a survey format to try and gauge the impact on specific businesses. We know there are some that will not recover from this and will not be reopening their doors, and there are others, conversely, that are surviving okay at this point. But we will, the measurables are going to be really in terms of our revenue streams and unemployment numbers. All of those things are being monitored. It's too early to draw any quantitative analysis, but the measurement devices are all in place, and you can be assured they're being closely monitored.
Okay.
We have a lot of decisions to make based on what happens in the next couple of months.
Okay, thanks.
And the town of Hector had asked the fire department to keep track of any expenses that were related to it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, Bill Kennedy, parallel to this, is tracking for FEMA purposes all COVID-related expenses, so that we at some point will get reimbursement.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for Sean or Veteran Services? And I guess if there's nothing else for this committee.
Actually, just 1 second. Okay, so I think Stacy was saying the same thing. Did everybody see Stephen's Zoom message that came up? Stephen, are you there? You want to read it to everybody since we got a break, or?
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Michael. The message was, looking at the park outdoor contract just now, I have confirmed that it is quote, that's my dog coughing, and it's an old dog cough. It's not the virus. It is quote, non-cancelable, and any attempt to cancel this contract before the expiration date will result in the full contract amount being immediately due and payable, unquote. So if there's concern about being able to cancel this contract because of public concern or public pushback, we wouldn't be able to cancel it. We'd still have to pay the full amount, whether we use the billboard or not.
Okay. Is there a possibility to go to them and ask to remove that clause or to get a 2-month contract?
Well, I don't
Maybe
know
with
if they'd
an
want
option.
to do a 2-month contract, but it certainly can't hurt to try and negotiate a termination clause. Worse, I don't know if Tammy's still on the call, because she does the primary negotiation here, but it certainly couldn't hurt to go back to them and see if they want to do that.
Yeah, I would agree.
If Tammy thinks it's feasible, I'd have to defer to Tammy on the practical realities. The theoretical reality is certainly it could be attempted.
Tammy, who are you dealing with at Parks?
I don't think
Mute.
All right, I'll follow up with her. You can do a month by month. And if it's a 2-month deal, do it that way. You know, the other thing is, I just thought about it. You know, you start putting a sign up like that and people are going to start wondering where the money's coming from to pay for that sign. So it's a slippery slope. So.
But in this case, it's not local money, so that's part of her funding stream. So
Yeah.
for that, on that point,
You know, to Mark's point, people are complaining about it. That'll be the next complaint, is the county spending money on a sign. So.
Right. Well, that's my piece of it is that you're associating the county's name with that thing.
Exactly.
Well, are people complaining that the Watkins Glen Fire Department is recruiting on the sign?
I haven't heard that. No, I will say that.
I don't think you're going to get the pushback that you think you are on this, but
okay.
Certainly having a cancellation clause in there makes perfect sense, especially if that's what it takes to get the rate, to keep the rate the same. If we have to go month by month, I'm guessing they're going to charge more. So locking into that rate with an out would make sense. I don't see a downside to that.
So for the purposes of the record, there was a approval by this committee. Does the committee wish to instead table it for this purpose, or at least adjourn it for this purpose?
I would prefer to table it for this purpose, and I so move that we do so.
I'll second.
If it's something, I don't have a say in this fight, but if it's something, I can probably get it rectified or get a better understanding with my contacts at Park Outdoors to find out without creating a whole bunch of discourse. If this is something that needs to be put up soon, sooner the better. But I've rented that sign myself, and you know, so I'm not saying, but I think I could probably resolve some of this.
Well, as far as I guess Michael would make the thing, but as far as I'm concerned, you're more than welcome to make an attempt in concert with Tammy.
Right, Phil, if you could talk to Tammy and see what you can do as far as that goes. I'll just, to be honest, my opinion is that I think that sign is very effective. When I see the Watkins Glen Fire Department, I think, great, they're putting it right up there. There's so many other groups that could be doing that. And I would go ahead and tell her it's fine to have it for the year. It's the way that she's going to make her agency more effective, because it is it catches everyone's attention. And I don't find any negative thing about it myself. But
I mean, I've got an agreement with them. If we need it for an emergency situation, such as advertising where to get your tests, they'll be more than glad to do it. So, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with this situation. So just putting it out there.
So I have a motion from Mark to table it, and
Gary seconded it.
And a second from Gary. Those are all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposed. And who was the other vote on? I have Mark and Gary in favor.
I was in favor.
Okay.
And Ben, okay.
Yep.
All right, so
Mike, you're the only no vote.
yes.
Okay.
So the motion to table it for now passes.
Yes.
Do we have anything else for this?
I will reach out to Tammy and make sure that she knows everything that occurred, since she's on mute. I don't know whether she's listening.
Anything else for this committee? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm sorry, this is Tammy. I was muted and I couldn't get unmuted. Can I just share with you that as far as the advertising, it is something that we have in our plan with the state, and we are required to do some type of advertising. So we're just trying to look at different ways that we can do this, and we're pretty limited right now. Not everybody gets something in print. So if anybody has other ideas about how we can do this, I'd really welcome those suggestions.
And Tammy, so you heard the conversation regarding investigating whether you could start with a 2-month agreement?
Yes, I'll call Carrie and see if we can do that. It's going to change the dates of the contract again. I mean, we've done this multiple times now, back and forth, so hopefully he's still willing to continue to work with me on changing some terms.
Did you hear that, Phil?
I did. It's just that my concern is he was beginning to get frustrated because we've gone back and forth literally multiple times on this contract. We've been doing this for a few months now. I'll go back and ask him if we can make another change, and hopefully he doesn't have an issue with that.
Right, and it doesn't even have to be a 2-month contract. It could be some sort of a cancellation clause.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking with the cancellation clause. I think would make more sense.
I'd recommend, rather than try to do 2 months, just say a month to month. That's a fairly common contract term. So Tammy, I think when you talk to them, just say, can it be a month to month? And I think that would probably be the cleanest way to do it.
Okay.
Very good. Anything else for this committee? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And we're adjourned.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to call to order the CDNR committee. And who do we have? Jim, are you out there, or?
Yes, I'm
Okay, so we do have
right
four
here.
for the committee.
Mhm.
Okay, so do we have anybody from the chamber on the call?
No, we didn't do the outside contract agencies.
Okay, very good. Well, then you've all had a chance to read through Paul's report, and I haven't heard anything additionally from Rebecca. You read Judy's report. Well, actually, any questions on anything about the chamber stuff? Though if they're not on, I don't know we can do anything more than take notes. Okay, any questions about the scoped report? Okay, Kristen, are you on the call? Moving to planning?
I'm here.
Okay, so do you have anything that you want to bring up?
I don't have a ton of stuff, no. I'm just working on all sorts of things. It's been going pretty well working from home. I don't have any real complaints about it. We did do Hazardous Waste Day on April 18th. It went really well. People were really grateful for the opportunity to come, that we still had it. So I think it was wise that we did it and it went well. So that's the only resolution I have for you guys, is to authorize the municipal agreement with Yates County for Household Hazardous Waste Day. They basically just pay us to allow their residents to come, and we do it on the opposite years that we don't host the event for Yates County.
Okay, so we've got the resolution in front of you. Anybody want to move it?
I'll move it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Howell, second.
Okay, I thought Howell was the first, but did we get a motion second out of that, Stacy?
Who motioned that?
Gary.
Gary, okay.
Ray and Howell.
Ray and Howell, good enough. Okay, with a motion and a second, any discussion?
Yes, isn't the date for this one for next year?
No, this was for the one that already occurred.
One we already did.
Just did, yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion's carried. Okay, anything else, Kristen?
I don't think so. No. Oh, I think we're gonna go to bid for Clute Park tomorrow, so that's pretty exciting.
Wow. Yeah, it's another one that you wonder how the heck we'll be able to do any work, but
Well, we're hoping that the construction firms are looking for work and consistent work. You know, the government work that's already been funded is less risky than other projects right now. So we're hoping we get really good bids back, but yeah, I think it's exciting.
yeah, very good. Okay, so thank you, Kristen. Okay, so Phil isn't on the call. Jerry, I don't think I saw on the call, so we haven't got anything listed. Okay, soil and water, nothing. Tim, anything on transportation?
No, nothing new to report.
Well, that's a good one. I think we're going to get done very quickly. Anybody got anything else for, as the chairman would say, for the good of the order in terms of CDNR? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second, Gray.
Okay, CDNR stands adjourned. Thank you.
No.
All right, we'll call the Management and Finance Committee to order. Libby?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All I have is a motion to accept the paper, plastic, and custodial supply bid.
I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Libby.
Thanks. Bye.
Holly?
Good morning. Really all I have today is just the sales tax update. There's not really a financial system update at this point. This was normally our busy time with the audit and with reconciling settlements with the towns. So we didn't have anything planned until June. So there's no update on that right now.
Okay, anything else any questions for Holly? Okay, thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Tom?
Good morning. We had one correction in the month of April. I apologize, it was not included on your agenda, but I did email everyone a PDF this morning, so you should have a copy of that. It was a special district charge, a fire district assessment that was incorrectly calculated. It's in the town of Hector that they're the only town that allows ag assessments to apply for fire district purposes. And so these have to get calculated manually. The system doesn't do it. We're pretty good about it, but every now and then one of them slips through the cracks. So, and that was the case with this one. And it's actually a charge to the town. So there is no impact for the county.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Anything else for Tom?
Just out of curiosity, because I'm still trying to figure this out, are you seeing the correction?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. So it's not the screen, it's the document. Got it. Thank you.
Lori?
Good morning. I have several resolutions on here. The first one is for road patrol with a memorandum of agreement regarding the use of OT versus comp time during this COVID time period.
I'll move it.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And then the next resolution is a similar MOA to do with the Corrections Officers Benevolent Association. Same language.
I'll move it.
Second, Michael.
Tim, what's this equating out to?
It really hasn't been a lot that's been directly COVID related, as things continue to be very quiet throughout the county. But it's, as we talked about before, a proactive move. Hopefully any amount of dollars expended will be reimbursable through FEMA over time. So it has not put a large stress. Sheriff's on the phone. He can probably address it better than I can, if he's still on anyways.
Yeah, we're not seeing a lot of change right now. This was done just in case reimbursement was available. It would be available for time and a half, not for comp time purposes.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, thank you.
The next resolution was to authorize a memorandum of agreement with Schuyler County Highway Unit and Administrative Unit. They had requested from us to put the furlough into an MOA. Originally, we did not start out with that. As more and more counties followed suit with what we were doing, CSEA was seeing that those counties were putting MOAs in place. Stephanie Angster, the LRS, reached out to us and asked if we would be willing to do that. So that is what this is. Although while we were sitting in this Zoom meeting, I received an email from her with one last change to the MOA, an original sentence that we had in there regarding the furlough agreement would be effective end of workday on April 17th, 2020, and shall be administered in rolling 30-day increments. They had originally asked us to add an ending frame in there, so we had added with the understanding that employees may be called back at any time within the 30 days or such time as federal assistance benefits of $600 a week ends. They are now asking us to take out the line that says, with the understanding that employees may be called back at any time within the 30 days and at such time additional federal benefit of $600 a week ends. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to actually speak to Stephanie regarding this. She just emailed me about it. Just a few days ago, they wanted that line put in. Now they want it out. I don't know your thoughts, Tim.
Well, I guess I'd have to know the reason why, but to just for clarification purposes, we maintained at the onset, unlike some other counties, that this was a management right. An actual MOA was not required. In consideration of pressures being brought to bear internally and within CSEA, I didn't have a problem with codifying what we did, but clearly, we didn't negotiate any aspect of this. So the language in here, I'm comfortable with, represents what the legislature approved, and if that makes them happy, great. But we will not be negotiating any other terms as part of this. The language that Lori's referencing doesn't matter one way or the other to us, so I don't know that it substantively changes the action. Although Lori, I don't have that to share on the screen. On the resolution that's on the website, it doesn't contain this MOA for the CSEA.
It doesn't affect the resolution language.
I think your point,
yeah.
I think your point though is we don't want to get pushed into negotiating and set a precedent.
And the way Lori's describing it, we're not, but so my suggestion would be move it forward. If for some reason, things changed on CSEA's part, we can pull it because it's certainly not, this is more of a courtesy on our part, quite frankly.
I think my only concern was the fact that they wanted to strike out the part with the understanding that employees may be called back at any times within that 30-day. I don't want to be locked into we have to go 30 day by 30 day by 30 day.
Exactly, and we won't agree to that.
Correct.
I think it's important to just recall that Well, we have a management right here because we're talking about furloughs, not layoffs. And we have been all along, but anytime we put something in writing in an agreement that potentially binds this legislature, we want to proceed very carefully before we approve anything.
Understand, absolutely.
Right, which is why I would prefer final language be agreed on before we actually take a vote.
I think Mark's point is well taken. I mean, the standard procedure we use in this body as a government is we don't approve something unless we have final language before us.
And I agree.
And we thought we had that.
But
Yeah.
you won't be approving it until Monday in any event. So I don't, like I said, we're doing it more as a courtesy on our part. It's not, there's no urgency by any means. But by the same token, this could be a very minor change, and the legislature would be able to act on Monday. So I'm not saying to vote on approval at this point, but you will have the final version before you do actually vote on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't there also a possibility that the highway is going back to work on the 18th?
It's possible, but it's still, that would be after 30 days.
This covers existing 30.
Yeah, that's a necessity. This is the best time of year to get work done. So sooner we get those guys working, the better. So anything else for Lori?
Well,
We have one more resolution authorizing extending the furloughs for the certain identified county employees.
Yeah, no, that one, yeah. I read, that one I read. Yes. That's not in here though.
I don't have it on the what's posted.
Right.
Should have been.
That's regarding the retirement.
No, that's regarding extending the original resolution that you folks did, 9220. We had to extend I think that just said for 30 days.
If it's not on this, I apologize. I've had to amend the management and finance agenda 2 or 3 times. And finally, the retirement one is on LRRC. All the resolutions should be on LRRC when we get to LRRC.
Okay.
so you're talking about intro 17, authorize extending furloughs.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move that.
Have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Did we vote on the prior one, Stacy?
I honestly don't think you did. I think we got
No.
All
about the,
right. We have a motion and a second for that one.
I did have a second. We just didn't vote on it.
All right. But we're gonna do it with some clarification, correct?
It can still be pulled, withdrawn, changed Monday night is what Tim's.
Okay. All right.
Just so, I just have a question because we're talking about intro 16, right? With the county highway unit, CSEA.
Correct.
So this one, the one I have in front of me, it doesn't include the part about the 30 day by 30 day. But
No.
that is,
Agreement itself.
oh, okay, that's not going to be in the resolution, that we can call them back at any time.
No, it will be.
It will
It's
be.
It's in the MOA itself.
Okay. All
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm confusing the two, I guess.
Right. The resolution doesn't state that, but.
No, it doesn't need to.
Right.
Okay. So we're ready to vote?
Yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anything else for Lori?
Just, we have another resolution that came up yesterday that's on LRC for retirement. I'll let Lori and Tim defer to that.
Sure, we can talk about it now. The resolution is copied after Skahari resolution, but as you'll recall, when we were discussing the furloughs, we were able to make employees whole or do no harm with one exception, and that would be the loss of retirement service credit. There is a school of thought that, especially as this becomes more commonplace throughout the public sector, that either the governor or the legislature would take action to waive that requirement for the COVID-19 crisis. So this is simply requesting that that be done so that employees be given credit towards retirement for any time they were off as a result of a furlough.
I'll move it.
Second, Michael?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anything else for Lori?
I have a question. Lori, are the employees that have been furloughed doing okay as far as collecting their benefits?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. I actually reached out to several of them yesterday by phone just to see where they were going. And the majority were getting it. There's definitely some frustrations. There was a lot of waiting on the phone for hours on end, things such as that. But for the most part, people, the folks who aren't getting it, there's been little quirky reasons why. One individual already had an open unemployment case and she forgot that. So when she tried to file a claim, it already said she had an open case. Two individuals, a married couple that I spoke with yesterday who had been very frustrated because they hadn't gotten through, just texted me while I was in this meeting and to indicate that they both finally got through yesterday. So I think slowly but surely it's all working out. I know the majority of folks did get their first pay last week. So it hasn't been easy for a lot of them, but persistence on the phones has paid off for them.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Peggy?
Peggy's outside working, but I'll fill in for her and call her in if we need to. But this is just continuing the discussion from last month, authorizing the actual contract to go to a cloud-based system for records management, replacing OnBase. We currently contract with BOCES for that service. While the initial upfront cost of conversion, albeit somewhat unknown, there may be additional costs this year that we can cover within the records budget. The long-term cost will be far less by switching to this system, and we will no longer be contracting with BOCES for that. Actually, they raised their price to $7,000. So moving forward will be, I think, roughly half of that for the cloud subscription. And more importantly, we'll be able to manage it ourselves. Right now, BOCES has been responsible for the scanning and conversion of documents, and it's been very slow. So we will do it, with our own staff that are already on site. It'll be more efficient and less cost effective, or less costly. So that's the resolution.
Have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Stacy, anything else?
I don't have any business, no.
Stephen? Tim?
Phil, sorry, my mic took a second to unmute my mic. I have no business of my own, but if nobody's here from the Board of Elections, we might want to talk about the court order yesterday on the New York State primary.
Yes.
I can do that if you want, Tim.
Absolutely.
A federal judge ordered New York to reinstate plans to hold its Democratic presidential primary in June. This ruling was the result of a lawsuit filed by Andrew Yang, one of the former candidates. As you probably know, the commissioners of the State Board of Elections had decided to cancel because every candidate except for former Vice President Biden had dropped out, but Yang sued. Judge Annalisa Torres agreed with Yang. She stated that removing them from the primary ballot, Yang, Bernie Sanders, other candidates, would only protect the public from the COVID-19 only to a limited extent. She noted that a number of states that did have primaries didn't cancel the primaries despite COVID. So she agreed with Yang supporters that the election of delegates was still important, even the candidate they pledge is no longer running. So that's something the county will have to be taking into consideration, depending on what the state does next, as far as both the practical and legal implications of this ruling.
We did receive approximately $24,000 in federal assistance that has to be directly related to election expenses associated with the COVID virus for federal elections. So now that we have the primary back on, that will make this an eligible election for those expenses or for those funds.
Yes, I just received that grant contract this morning from Board of Elections. It's in for Carl's signature on his desk, and our legislative chambers has been already reserved for early voting June.
We've lost you, Stacy.
Sorry, am I still there?
Yep, now you are.
I have the grant contract in for the chairman's signature for those funds, and just letting everybody know we had already reserved months ago the legislative chambers for June 13th through the 21st. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Okay,
Tim,
thank you.
did you want those numbers from DMV? Sorry.
Yeah, Teresa, I asked Teresa to share the comparison of, since we are able to take or conduct business in DMV, certainly on a limited fashion, but we have been receiving a fairly good volume, and I don't know what the numbers are, but Teresa apparently is prepared to share them. So.
Well, unfortunately, it's not as impressive as I was hoping, but just to give you a comparison, March of last year, we brought in 13,600. March this year, 15,500. April, that's where we, hit the wall with being shut down completely for a while, and then now just doing mail volume. Last year we were at 20,000. This year we're only at 3,400. So we're only averaging about $340 a day, basically. But it's still money coming in. We just hit our threshold for the revenue share for the online services, so we'll start making money there. We have to hit $127,000 in online sales before we get our 0.325%. The clerk's office, I'm happy to say we're still actually rolling along pretty much as normal. Just looking at our general report, the revenues that we will pay to the treasurer's office. Last year, March was 13,000. This is on top of the DMV revenue. This year, March was 15,000. April last year was 18,000, and this year, April was 17,000. So like I said, we're still holding steady there. And with our mortgage tax, we're still bringing in mortgage tax. So the basic tax that gets paid out to all the towns is still going strong. Last month, we bought in a little over 20,000 in basic tax, and April was a little over 13. So we're plugging along. I wish DMV's numbers were a little more impressive. I thought they were going to be, but after I crunched them, not so much. But of course, once we can get foot traffic in, that number will definitely jump tremendously. And right now we're just fighting a lot of phone calls and trying to get people organized to send whatever they can through the mail. We're getting people as far away as Long Island mailing the registration renewals to us. So we're doing whatever we can to keep bringing in revenue.
So do we have any idea where in the schedule of things county operations sit in terms of bringing people back, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, et cetera?
Well, it's unknown to a degree. A lot of it is tied to the original pause order limiting or requiring a 50% reduction of staff at all public employers. So theoretically, if that's withdrawn, when he extends it next week, or doesn't extend it next week, we then could consider reopening on certainly a limited basis, appointment only, those sorts of things. We still have to comply with the social distancing requirements, but it's possible that could occur if we get beyond the only thing really is I interpret it is the workforce reduction orders, as opposed to treating us as a business or professional service.
Right. We're not an I don't think attractive is a word that's normally applied to county government, possibly
we're
the
not
nuisance
attractive
part.
nuisance.
I haven't heard anything on our side from the DMV commissioner, if there's any indication that we can open up any sooner, but there's been talk, nothing more than that at this point.
I think that will be part of our regional discussion today, as far as how we handle the government aspect of it as well, so.
Oh, by the way, thanks, Holly. I checked with her, our auto use tax, which is also something that's tagged onto these registrations. March number was 10,670, so that's pretty good too. Thank you, Holly. So that bumps up our March number quite a bit.
Anything else?
Nope, I'm done.
Motion to adjourn? So move,
So moved.
second.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
LRRC.
All right, we'll move on to the LRRC.
Hey, Carl,
Yes, sir.
it's Van Harp. Before we go to LRRC, I'd just like to apologize for coming in late, number one. And did someone do the public safety, criminal justice? Did anyone handle that?
Phil handled the meeting. We had tabled your reform impact statement again.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. And thanks, Phil, for handling that. But I just want to tell you, all right, I was at the computer and and all set to come in, and then could not get in and had to go to Chris again. This is the second time this has happened to me. All right. And was not able to get in time to get that. So I apologize to the sheriff and the DA and Chris and Wes, and Bill for being late to the party. Okay. I do have a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. I will bring up tomorrow. Okay.
Tomorrow.
Our weekly meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
the Thursday. Yeah. Thank you. Man, that was just not even in my head.
All right,
I'm thinking next Monday.
go
Thank
to
you.
the LRRC agenda. We'll call the meeting to order. Stacy, I guess you're on.
If you wish to have me read the titles, I certainly can. I did add to the LRC agenda the local law that did not go back through committee because that confuses people when I put it through committee twice. Would you like me to read titles or just answer the
As a
question?
suggestion, since typically the reason of going at LRRC is for those that weren't able to attend the committee meetings to weigh in on and to read what you just literally minutes ago approved. may not be necessary, but
Right.
so the agenda is up. I can go to any specific resolution at your direction if you have questions about them, or if it's, and actually it's just the 19 as a result of what you just did. So, so
Any particular ones that you want to bring up?
I had a question about number 7.
Okay.
And the question is, what is the cost of the county to prepare and deliver the meals? I know that I see that we're authorized accept 11,520 from the Unity Response Fund. I guess from what I know about this, my concern is, and correct me if I'm not clear on it, most of our homeless people are in the motel in Montour Falls.
this is
During
a
the
that we've calculated based on our direct and indirect cost, and we are basically paying ourselves as opposed to contracting it out. So the OFA is providing them. This is what we've determined to be total cost of, so we're paying reimbursement for it.
Right, and didn't Joanne say there was approximately $40 a month per person additionally that is figured into this, so that the actual cost is about $40 per person per month higher, but this is the net.
Right.
I guess my thought was that most of our homeless people are in the motel in Montour Falls, which is right next to the Dollar General. And it's also my understanding that most of these people, most if not all of these people, have a SNAP card. So theoretically, they could just walk right next door to the Dollar General using their SNAP card and get, I've got to grab my dog. So that's my concern. Is this totally necessary? Yes, I understand that they're not out with the mixing with the crowd and they're getting a better meal from OFA than they would from the junk they get off the shelf next door. But I just wanted to throw that out for discussion. It concerns me a little bit that these people are already on the SNAP card. Damn dog. Hey.
I'll wait till Jim comes back, but it's my understanding, and I'll confirm with Joanne, but I believe this is, it's mandated that we do this.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. No, it's better for the people to have a nice hot meal, but
Well, and it also.
where does all this
creates an
end?
opportunity for us to recoup some of that cost by doing it ourselves and getting somebody else to pay for it.
Any other questions on any of the other resolutions? Okay, being none, anything else for LLRC? I would take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, will we still be meeting tomorrow evening?
I normally I would say it probably wouldn't be necessary, but given all that's happening, there probably will be a lot that changes between now and tomorrow. So I think it would be good to give you an update on the reopening, if nothing else. But it would, I would suggest that.